You should never typeset a book in Word. It doesn't have the tools to do everything I just talked about. But then even when you see the results, sometimes, we'll see books that were laid out in InDesign, but by somebody who was never taught these rules. And so it's not the tool, it's the knowledge of the person who's using that tool that's important.
Welcome to Inspired Choice today. I'm your host, Caroline Bisalski, here to bring you authentic stories, surprising lessons, and powerful takeaways to fuel your journey in business and life. In each episode, I'll take you from one inspiring guest to the next, blending their experiences with my expertise to uncover practical strategies you can use right away. Whether you're starting out or stepping up, stay tuned for insights and actionable tips that make a difference. And stick around until the end for a special freebie just for our listeners. Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline and my today's guest is Michelle Di Filippo, and I'm so happy that she said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, Caroline. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Wow, and I would like to introduce you to the audience, of course. So you are the founder of 1106 Design, a company dedicated to helping authors release high-quality books while retaining control and maximizing earnings. Your mission is to empower authors to ask the right questions, avoid scams, and make informed choices when selecting publishing service providers. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Michelle Di Filippo.
Thank you, Carolyn.
What a great day today to talk about authorship, so to say. And my first question is, what inspired you to start 1106 Design and support authors in the publishing process?
Okay, well, that's kind of a long story. I've been in publishing for 52 years now. My first job was at Crown Publishing in New York City, where I was born and raised. And that was in 1972. And that's how I got started in the publishing world. Then my husband and I decided to move to Phoenix, Arizona. And we made the erroneous assumption that we could find a job as easily in Arizona as we could in New York. And that turned out to be very wrong, a wrong assumption. So freelanced for a while, worked for minimum wage for a while, and finally decided in 1980 to open a typesetting business when I found out that there was a demand for that. So that lasted for 13 years until Steve Jobs had other ideas about how people could put words and pictures together on a page. And so every typesetting business in the world went out of business by 1993 or so. And mine was one of them. So from 1993 to 2001, I went back to freelancing because that's what I knew. And around I don't know the exact date, when Amazon came on the scene, all of a sudden it became possible for authors to publish a book and distribute it worldwide to everyone without having to work with a publishing company. And that was the greatest opportunity forever for authors. So I realized I had the skills to do that, and I formed 1106 Design to just start working for authors.
You did this, yes, and you help so many people publishing their books. I'm so happy about that service and your pivots as well in your entrepreneurial journey, so to say. So what are the most common pitfalls authors face when choosing publishing service providers?
Okay, well, there is a fine distinction which is becoming forgotten, and that is there are book publishers and there are publishing service providers. Now, and authors will typically find book publishers first when they go searching for help online. But unlike publishers in the past, today's publishers charge the author for services, and then they also take money out of the author's pocket when a book is sold. That's part of the old publishing model. But in the old model, publishers never charged people for services, right? So these newfangled publishers charge for services on the front end and take money out of the author's pocket on the back end, which doesn't work out too well in most cases for the author. So the reason I'm doing these podcasts is to remind people about the original model of self-publishing, which is that you hire service providers, you keep control of your book, and then you distribute the book in your own name worldwide through your own print-on-demand accounts, and nobody takes any more money out of your pocket when a book is sold. So that's the model we follow, and that's the model I recommend, because authors can make up to $5 or more per book sold when they control the service providers themselves and don't work with an intermediate publisher.
Oh, I understand. So there's a false view on self-publishing. What you mentioned is, and when I understood it right, then self-publishing means it's the author, him or herself publishing the book, right?
Well, that's correct. That was the original idea, that the author would be the publisher and assume all of the roles and responsibilities of the publisher by hiring the experts. But the key point is that you don't need anyone else to publish you. You can do that yourself by opening your own accounts at KDP and Ingram Spark. So, and in some cases, these middleman publishers, they don't do anything more for you than open up the account in their name,
Yes.
right? And so if these publishers are providing a service in return for that back end commission, then that's perfectly legitimate. But many of them do not. They charge you for the services up front, and they do nothing that you can't do for yourself on the back end.
Yes, I understand. So it's the lack of the technology skill also, that you don't know how to open an account, or even, it depends on where you are in your stage. Like me, as a digital native, the first thing I do is I Google it, or now there's
Right.
ChatGPT, or I insert it in the greatest search engine on the planet. It's YouTube. And there are so many tutorials, and then I can see the steps I have to take to publish on KDP. You mentioned KDP and Ingram Spark. I think this is the name.
Yes. Those are the two print-on-demand platforms. Okay, KDP is owned by Amazon. Ingram Spark is owned by the Ingram Company, which has been in the book distribution business for 100 years. So between those two, if you use those two platforms together, which is what we recommend and what we help our authors do, you will get the widest distribution at the lowest possible cost.
I understand. So I'm in Germany here. I just want to mention there is a German publisher or a self-publisher. It's called BOD.de. But and it is like, I think it's the same what you described. They publish it, but you told also us about that they take from the cost. So they charge you on the front end, and then they take per book or per demand. They take something.
Yeah, usually. I mean, there's a million different business models out there, right? But what I want authors to do is understand what the options are and then pick the one that's best for them.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So let's talk about that. My question is, how does 1106 design help authors maintain control and increase their books' profitability?
Okay, well, if you're writing a book for the first time and you don't know anything about the publishing business or the cover design business or the editing business, what we do is we make all of that easy for you. I've got a team in place that will walk you through every step of the process. We start with your completed manuscript. If you've got a manuscript completed to the best of your ability, then we'll begin with an editorial evaluation, and then usually almost always copy editing, sometimes a higher level than that, but it depends. And then we'll handle cover design, interior design and layout for the pages of your book. We'll proofread, we'll make an ebook, and we'll help you get set up with your own distribution accounts so that nobody is in the middle between you and your payments.
Yes, so this is a sort of coaching you are doing as well?
It's coaching along the way. We will typically answer about 300 messages in the course of a project, but it's a service provider too. So you don't have to go out and find freelancers. We've done that. And I can tell you it's not easy to find good people and know that they're dependable and they're doing the job the way it should be done. We work at the traditional publisher level, which is higher than what you may typically find online these days. There's a lot of amateurs that have gotten into the business and are not working at the level needed to produce a quality book.
Yes, I understand what you mean a little bit because I just came across a YouTube video about that. It was very interesting to hear about the differences in the quality. Of course, when we see a book somewhere, then we can determine or assume where it came from, right? If it's like a low or cheap produced book or high quality, you mentioned it, and you mentioned also the cover design. What would you say, how important is the cover design or the cover for a book?
A cover has one job, and that's to make people stop, right? So your front cover text and the illustrations and the composition and design of that front cover should emulate what you see on the level from the major publishers, right? And that's one way to qualify a designer, is to look at their portfolio and then also open up another window on your browser from a major publishing company. And you will see in many cases the difference in the skill level between those two windows, right? Some of the low-cost designers you'll notice that all of their covers look the same. They may use a different font for the cover, or they may change out the picture, but basically it's all the same concept over and over and over again. And that's why they're cheap, because they're not really spending any time to create a unique cover for you. So if you look at major publisher websites, you'll see that the designs for the different types of books they publish are carefully crafted. They're unique. They're well put together. They're well thought out. And that is what people have in their mind mentally as what a real book looks like, a quality book. So, and Amazon will put those books up next to yours when people go searching for your title. So your book cover has to look as good as the bestseller group. Otherwise, people may say to themselves, I never heard of that author. I don't know if that's reliable. That book doesn't look so hot. I think I'm going to go buy the other one instead.
I understand. So it is very important to have a unique cover design by a real exceptional artist.
Yes, a cover designer. We will often use royalty-free images to create covers, but there's a skill to it that's different than general graphic design. And creating a book cover that looks like a book cover in your genre is the most important thing, right? Because cookbooks look one way, history books look another way, memoirs look different, novels look different. You have to make your book look right for the type of book it is.
And also for the type of audience or the people who read it, the readers. And I think, what about the size of a book or the format? Maybe you call it format.
Well, if you're talking about, the size of the book, the print-on-demand printers have standard sizes that you have to adhere to, but there's many to choose from. The interior formatting is another whole subject now. People call it formatting now, and some authors will follow the advice they see online and go looking for a formatter, but that's the last step in the creation of book pages. The first step is to design what those pages are going to look like, work through some options. What are the chapter openers going to look like? How are the captions going to be treated? What about charts and graphs and other kinds of artwork that may appear on the pages? So that all has to be worked out. And we'll, we'll start with that and show several samples and work back and forth with the author on that. And then after that sample is approved, then a typesetter comes into play. And a book typesetting is a very detailed process. We attend to all sorts of issues that you wouldn't think of in order to make that book text easy to read and not distracting. So one or two examples would be, we don't allow a word to hyphenate on the last line of a right-hand page, because if you do that, then the author has to keep that in mind as they turn the page. And that's a minor distraction that takes them away from your message. Another thing might be to never end a paragraph with half a word. You see that a lot. A third one might be don't put the last line of a paragraph at the top of a page, because again, that's a distraction. So that kind of typesetting takes a lot of time and a lot of attention to detail. And that's what a real book typesetter will do, a book designer.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. Of course, and you talked in the beginning. You said you have over 50 years of experience, and this shows as well, because someone who's publishing their first book, they cannot know what cover design to choose, or also the typesetting. It's very interesting because, and I would call it, I don't know if this word exists, but I think you know what I mean, like readability or so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's all about reading comprehension. We don't want to slow the reader down with big variations in spacing, for instance. We'll attend to tight and loose lines. And if you don't know any of that when you're going in, of course, it's appealing to go find a low-cost formatter who's working in Word, for example. You should never typeset a book in Word. It doesn't have the tools to do everything I just talked about. But then even when you see the results, sometimes, we'll see books that were laid out in InDesign, but by somebody who was never taught these rules. And so it's not the tool, it's the knowledge of the person who's using that tool that's important.
Yes, it's about skills as well, and it's like, I compare it to an instrument, like a musical instrument, because it's so funny when my kids were young, and then the wish was for a banjo. I don't know if you call it that way, this instrument, and he thought when he owns this instrument, he can play it immediately. So there is a lot of work to do to learn this instrument as well. So you can buy this software. It's like people are buying courses and they think it's immediately implemented into their mind, so to say.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great comparison, right? There are people who play casually just for fun, and then there are the virtuosos who make that instrument do things we can't imagine. And that's the same in any line of work, design included. So, yeah, it's just that the thing that bothers those of us who've been in the industry for any length of time is that sometimes people who don't know a thing about typesetting or design are offering courses to make money, and the message is appealing. I'll teach you how to design your book for $100, or I have a system you can dump your manuscript into and you can format your book for $79. Well, yeah, you'll get something that looks like a book, maybe, but it's not going to be a bookstore level book. So I tell all authors, spend a lot of time in bookstores. You'll start to see what good books should look like, and kind of absorb that in your mind, so that when you see something that's anything less than that, you'll recognize that it's not good enough.
I understand. So I love bookstores as well. And of course, I have to ask you about AI, because when we talked about the cover design, you can also create those pictures with AI.
Yes, but I don't know where it's going to go any more than anyone else does, but I would like to think that there is no substitute for human creativity, right? Do we really want machines to write our books and design our books? I hope not, because in the course of, we've done 4,000 books now. So in the course of doing that many projects, I will tell you that every author is unique and every book is unique. And I think AI may be fine to do research or to kind of play around with ideas about what you might want. But as far as executing the final product, I do hope that human creativity retains its appeal.
Yes, absolutely. I understand what you mean, because I think that, or especially when we are faced with very old books, right? It contains the spirit of the author, and you can feel it between the lines. It's a part of the author, the thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all recognize AI text now. It just kind of has a flat feel to it, and an author can really put, and an editor can really put some feeling and inspiration into the text that so far AI has not been able to replicate, and I hope it never does. My worry is, as AI takes hold and more people start using it, what is it going to use for new information? Right now it's using information that was put in with probably without our knowledge, and it's kind of feeding on that. But what happens when we're not feeding it anymore, when the only material out there is AI generated? Then what?
Yes, then we get used to.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
our
So
new normal.
I may be arguing with the market, but I know what it takes to do a good book, and I hope I can continue to do that.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. Of course, I have one last question. It's about your goals. Do you set goals for yourself and intentions? And what is one of your next projects? I know you have a lot of book projects, but I mean like your projects.
Well, I take it one day at a time, right? Helping authors one book at a time is always interesting, never boring, and that's one of the great things about working in the publishing industry. You're not doing ads over and over again for, refrigerators or anything like that, which is what graphic design used to be. But a book is always unique, and the author is always unique, and I want my business to go on forever, even if I don't. So we'll have to see about that.
I love that. So, can you please tell us where we can find you when people want to reach out to you after listening to this episode?
Sure. My website is 1106design.com, and you'll find there, I believe there's not enough transparency in the industry, so I believe in complete revealing of our prices. I have all of our prices online. I have 200 or so blog posts. You'll find over 200 reviews from happy customers. You'll find everything you need to know about us. And another thing that makes us different, I think, is if you click the button and request a consultation, we're not going to start with the high pressure tactics. We're not going to send you 5 emails a day. We'll call you. We'll have a nice conversation, see if we're a good fit to work together. Now, if you go to my website, you can also download for free my little free book called Publish Like the Pros. And it goes through all the steps for self-publishing a book. It goes more into the calculations in terms of revenue if you manage your own print-on-demand accounts. And so I'm always happy to answer any questions, and so is everyone on my staff. So we'd love to hear from you.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm glad I asked you that. It is so generous to share your book on your website. Please reach out to Michelle. She's amazing. And now it's time for your final thoughts to the audience, please.
Well, that I think I've pretty much said everything. I always will believe in good books, and I hope you do too. And I hope this was useful to you. Whether or not we work together, I hope I was able to teach you a few things so that you can make the right choice for yourself.
Wow, thank you so much. I always love books, and now I love them even more.
Thank you for having me.
And see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Inspired Choice today. I'm thrilled to have you on this journey of growth and transformation. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe to stay connected and never miss an episode. And here's something special. Grab your free 20-minute breakthrough session with me. It's designed to help you kickstart or level up your business. Just check out the show notes for more. Until next time, keep making those inspired choices. See you in the next episode.